Hello, Education 4330. This is Miss Hubble, and I wanted to make this video for you because we didn't get to meet last week and we have a midterm coming, and I just want to make sure that you are aware of some revised due dates and that you have the most information possible for your midterm. So I sent this email on the 19th, on Friday, but just in case you might have missed it, I know lots of us didn't have power and Wi-Fi. I did move some due dates around to accommodate for the time that you weren't able to work on things. So the baby budget was originally due on the 17th, and I first extended it to the 21st, but then realizing that people were still trying to work on things that were already due, I moved it to the 26th at 11:59. So that's Friday. So if you haven't worked on your baby budget, it's due on Friday by midnight. Observation 1 was due on the 17th, and now it's due on March 1st by 11:59 p.m. If you haven't turned in your vlog that was due on the 14th, I know it's late, but go ahead and turn it in, and we're not going to worry about it if it's late or not. We're just going to turn it in. And so anyway, we're coming upon midterm, and I want to just make sure, of course, I want to see you tonight, but I also wanted to make sure that if you need something, I would want you to text me. Please tell me who you are if you text me, just because I get a lot of text messages and I want to make sure it's you. Or you can call me, or you can send me an email, or pull me up on Teams, whatever you would like. Several of you have done this, and I am fine with it, so don't worry if you need to talk. I'm going to open up the midterm review because I wanted to give you a little bit more information. I don't think we'll have time to go through every item tonight and talk about where to find it, so I wanted to do that with you right now. It's a Word document, and you see it says review for the midterm. You have this on week 7. Okay, so if you look at it, number 1 says pick a side, nature versus nurture. Okay, so where might we find that? Well, we might find it. I'm going to change my font color so you can see it. Well, red's good, I guess. So I took the liberty of looking everything up, and we're going to find that on page 78. And of course, you're picking a side. I'm telling you on page 78, you can find some information about it, okay? And so I'm going to put that is information. But information, you pick a side and support it. Okay, so you'll need, whatever you decide is fine, but you need to support your answer. Okay, well, if that's a question. Okay, number 2, many typical changes are related to maturation. And so that talks about pages 9 to 18. That is chapter 1. And I know you know that page 9 to 18 is chapter 1, but I think it's helpful if we can mark all these things for you. Table 2.1 is chapter 2, and you're going to want to note that. I am not the best typist. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, I want to make sure you have the information. So look at number 3, be familiar with operant conditioning and know the terms as reinforcement, punishment, and be able to apply those to infants and toddlers. Okay, so there's a couple of different places that there's information about that. And so chapter 2 is one place, and it is chapter 2. I don't know why my color keeps changing. I'm trying to make it red so you can see it, but it keeps changing. Chapter 2, and it's page 32 and 33. Okay, 32 and 33. And good grief. Here we go. Okay, so it's that. And there's also some information in chapter 7. And it is on page 179. Okay, so if you needed to look at that as well. There's also number 5 is talking about Piaget, and I'm just going to put this there. Okay, so Piaget is talking about assimilation, accommodation, And then they're also talking about the stages with Piaget. So a lot of that is going to be in chapter 2, and it's page 34. And there is some also, though, in chapter 7, because in chapter 7, they talk about the sensory motor phase stage. And so I want to make sure that you know that as well. It's really important that you are really familiar with these things because, oh my goodness, I cannot tell. Because the questions are going to be more like, here's a scenario, what stage is it? Or why did this child do that? Okay, so you need to be familiar with what it means so you can so you know how to apply it. Okay, so number 6 is be familiar with Vygotsky and how the terms such as zone of proximal development and scaffolding, know what those mean and be able to apply them to infants and toddlers. Okay, and know how language is acquired and the benefits of reading aloud. So that's going to be chapter 2, and it's page 35. Okay, and I'm just going to mark it red so we know. And this number 7, I'm not writing anything specific. Number 7 is reminding you that whatever we're talking about, these theories and these scenarios, we need to be able to look at a scenario and identify the theory or identify why something is happening. Okay, so the question is not going to be straight up, what is Vygotsky's ZPD? It's going to ask something about, like, how do you know it's that, or how does a child develop language, something like that. So you need to know how to apply those things to the infants and toddlers. Okay, so I'm scooting this up, and number 8 says, if you and your partner were not fertile, would you consider or undertake any of these assisted reproduction methods described? Okay, it says described here. Where that is, where they're talking about is in chapter 3 is where chapter 3 is where they discuss infertility and fertility. And so it's really your opinion, but you have to know what those methods are. So I'm putting the page numbers here for you, page 61 to 66. And so you'll want to read through that information and make sure that you're familiar so that you can give a good answer in case that would be asked. Okay, what about the stages of prenatal development and what happens in each stage? So you'll need to know those stages because I might ask a question that says, maybe gives information about what's happening, and then you might be able to say what stage it is. So think about the videos that you've watched and also what you've read in the book. And in the book, you would have read chapter 4. So on chapter 4, it's going to be page 97 is talks about the embryonic stage and some of those things. And so you're going to want to look at that. And then there's also the videos that we have watched about the different areas. And so I'm sorry, here comes the printer. I think they're working on it. And so also the videos. So, and then here would be what are the principles of cephalocaudal and proximal distal growth? And that's going to be chapter 6. So we're going to want to write down chapter 6. And it's going to be on page 144. Let me see here. Okay. What about the environmental influences of that affect prenatal development? That's number 11. Chapter 4 talks about that, and it's about on page 100. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down for you. Okay, so what about number 12 says, identify and be prepared to discuss at least 3 ways to encourage more pregnant women to seek early prenatal and preconception care. Be able to discuss why prenatal care is important. Okay, so one of the things that you're going to want to do is, of course, it's going to be a lot of it your own opinion, but also the information about the prenatal care and preconception care is going to be in um, let's see, it's going to be in chapter 4, and it's page 110 is where it starts. So I'm going to put chapter 4, page 110 to 113. Okay, so just make sure that you looked over that. Okay, if you or your partner were expecting a baby and pregnancy seemed to be going smoothly, would you prefer a hospital, birth center, or home birth, or attendance by a midwife or physician? And would you prefer medication or no medication? So you need to address each one of those parts if that was asked, and then what are your reasons for that? Okay, and so that would be, I'm looking at the wrong question. That's number 13, and that's going to be page 116 to 118 is going to be explaining the different options. And so I'm just going to write that down. 116 to 118. And remember, this is you're going to choose it, and then you're going to give reasons if that's asked. But I want you to have the information to know what, it's your own preference and the reasons why. So I'm going to put here. Good grief. I do know how to type. So your own preference and rationale. Okay, what are the APGAR score ranges and what are the normal ranges of that? That's going to be chapter 5. And it is page 126 and 127. And there's a really nice chart in there in the textbook about it. So I would really familiarize myself with that chart so that if the question was asked, you would, if they said the child got a score of this, and then you would be able to know, is that normal or not normal? Okay. So I don't know why number 14 lit up. I think I touched it accidentally, but I'm not going to worry about it. Anyway, number 15 is saying about the role of the father. Do you agree that the mother is will always be more important to the baby than a father? Do you agree or disagree? What do you plan to do to bond with your baby? So that's really it's really what you believe, but it's also there is information about bonding with the child and the role of the mother, the role of the father, that kind of thing. And that is actually in chapter 5. So I'm going to put that down here. But you're going to want to read through that so that you can formulate if that was asked, what would you say to that? And I know I keep saying if that was asked, because I'm going to tell you that I'm not giving you the exact question, but I'm giving you these things to look up that are going to help you answer a question that would come up. Okay. So here, number 16 is asking, be familiar with the early sensory capacities of infants: touch, pain, smell, taste, hearing, and sight, and know the reflexes and why they are important. Okay. Remember when we read about that, and that was chapter 6. And so we're going to look that up in chapter 6, and that's going to be beginning on page 159. Okay, so, and then the last one that we have here is, how is trust developed? How are attachments made? So that's going to be in chapter 8, beginning on page 227. Okay, so I'm just writing down chapter 8, page 227. Okay, and that's pretty much it on what's on the review. We're going to talk a little bit, we're going to talk about it in class, but I wanted you to have the information so that when you're studying, you could play it again if you needed to or anything like that. And like I said, we'll talk more about the makeup of the test tonight, but I wanted you to have more information about where to find answers in that. Again, if you have any questions, then please let me know.